Welcome to Conscious Living Collective, transformative journey in consciousness with community of like-minded people, which is you. My name is Tomek. I'm a teacher, scientist, and transformation coach. In this live session, we blend the latest in scientific research, the deep wisdom of mindfulness, and the art of fulfilled living. As always, this is an invitation for you to have your own first-hand direct experience and emerged on the other side with a renewed sense of purpose and well-being. Thank you for being here. Wonderful listeners, students of life, seeking more peace in these very, very turbulent times. I want to extend particularly warm welcome to the members of my Patreon program that have been with me for the past 5 years since the beginning of pandemic. And now we're facing together yet another very, very turbulent time. Because today's session of Conscious Living Collective, it's very practical in its nature. It is a session to address what is happening in the world. We here in Conscious Living Collective are not to escape the reality as it is. We are here to embrace it by understanding what is happening. And in the spirit, collective spirit of togetherness, to face it together, which always makes things easier, at least from my experience. So, how are you feeling today? How are you affected by the state of the world as it is? And I want to start our session with explaining why I even bother bringing all those things that we have no control over, the geopolitical state of the world, to the session of Conscious Living Collective, to Insight Timer that predominantly is about meditation. And I want to explain why. The reason for it is that Conscious Living Collective is it's not about bypassing reality. And my daily mission is to intentionally not getting sucked into the stream of information, but at the same time, I don't want to be ignorant about what is happening around the world. And what I'm hearing, before it was just, there's always war somewhere. Things are happening on the planet, things that are not newsworthy. So I thought to myself, listen, don't bother. Just focus on what is important, which is being positive yourself and in turn spreading positivity to others. For instance, like through sessions of Conscious Living Collective. But what I'm observing right now, and feel free to challenge me on that point, that what is happening in this very moment on our planet, it's not just a localized unrest, but something that has a tendency, or it's spread around the world. I want to start with obvious. US government, I'm not saying US people, but US government decided to invade southern country. Before, we had invasion of Russia and Ukraine, and the entire world decided to condemn this kind of action. But now look what is happening. The US government does the same thing, invades a sovereign country. And on closer to where I live, close to Australia, we have China, another superpower, openly admits the intention to take over Taiwan, which is another sovereign country. And I understand there is a history there. And each of the governments, each of the nations, I don't want to say nations, each of the governments will come up with a very good reason to take over some country or some land. Another thing I hear about Greenland, which is another that belongs to Denmark, being taken over by, or intention of, of I don't know what is even happening there. So I do not want to focus on a singular event, which, if we look at the news stream, brings a lot of anxiety to us on both the information level, but also on the level of your well-being. I want to rather focus on the trend that has been increasingly coming into the state of the world as is. And this trend is not that of peace, compassion, understanding. It's the opposite. It's the one of isolation, alienation, saying we are the best. We have the right to tell others what to do. And what does it remind me of on a personal level? Well, when I feel angry, upset, when my nervous system is dysregulated, I tend to come to myself, alienate myself. The thoughts coming, everything is bad. I am the only person, I'm the only victim of what is happening to me. But I know I meditated for long enough and I have been with myself for long enough to understand that this is not the optimal state from which I want to operate. So, what is the better way of approaching what is happening in the world? And the one practice that I want to suggest to you, and we will meditate for those of you who are here for the first time and haven't attended the session of Conscious Living Collective, it's about maintaining conversation and having connection through the conversation, but even more importantly, meditating on this very connection that we have here. So this is how Conscious Living Collective works. So yes, on one hand side, we have the collective tension and dysregulated nervous system. And when I observe that, coming back to my point, when I observe that on my individual level, I know the things are not great. Now we observe that on a global level, when the nations or governments of the nations behave in the same way, and that tells me that things are not great. To put it mildly, they suboptimal. When I feel this way, the thoughts of aggression come to mind. Thoughts of, I will only focus on myself. I can do it on my own. I don't need anybody else. Have you ever experienced those kind of thoughts when you feel low? When your nervous system is downregulated or dysregulated, when you're out of balance? And now, ask yourself that question, another question. How does it make you feel on the level of the body when you connect with this global news that is being pushed on you? How does it feel in your body right here, right now, when you consider the news, the state of the world I presented to you? Do you feel empowered to face, to go out and enjoy the presence of others? Or do you rather feel disempowered? I don't want to do anything today. Things are terrible. Maurice, despair. Do you feel despair? So, that anxiety, helplessness, vigilance that we experience as a result of the state of the world is, it has nothing to do with your personal failure. This is first thing to understand. It's a physiological state that is a result of the collective mind, and particularly people that are in power. And one thing I always remind myself, that my government does not always represent who I am and does not always represent my point of view. I do not try to pretend and tell how politicians take care of the world. They arguably much better qualified to do their job. So the only thing I can do is what I will invite you to do today, and actually what I invite you to do every single time we gather here on Inside Timer during Conscious Living Collective, to examine what is happening within you. See for yourself what you have control over, what choice you have, which stream of information you choose to connect with. Austin, helplessness. Hello, Austin. Karen, anxious. Evie, overwhelmed. These are states, physiological states, that are absolutely natural to experience when the state of the world is as we see it. Okay? So that's normal, and it is okay to feel this way. And now, what I will invite you today to do is to bring all that, have courage, have resilience, not to ignore what is happening, but to bring it on to the collective table of Conscious Living Collective and sit with it and recognize that amidst all that, there's also peace. But peace, not as a state. States of mind and state of body change. But peace as a source. We are all coming from a source, and I mean it in a non-religious term. There's a source of our being, and that source has little to do with our state of mind and with the understanding of the world, intellectual understanding of the things. And that source is not mutable. What's the word not mutable? You cannot mutate it. It's not something that you change by experiencing anxious thoughts. So what I ask you to consider the inner peace as a source and not as a state, because states can change. Your well-being can change. In the last session, if you attended, I said well-being is not, it's a state, not situation. So you see, we progress deeper in today's session of Conscious Living Collective. We're moving one step further. We're bringing all what we have, all the challenges, the state of the world. We take it, we're putting it on the table, and amidst all of that, seek peace. And this is a courageous act. It's not an easy thing to do, I admit it. There's nothing more difficult to do for me than try to turn the gaze within when I feel upset, when I feel unsettled, out of balance. And yet, this is the time, the point in time where we learn the most. Things are peachy. It's easy to sit down and just bask in the glory of that state. But when the things are difficult, your ability, the choice of turning your gaze within and connect with the source, or even consider seeking that source. That's a tremendously courageous act. And as a matter of fact, I don't want to go there by myself. I want to ask you for help. I want to put it out there for you to consider that going together can amplify, can give you courage, and can be more beneficial to all of us as we sit. And on the scientific level, I want to ask you, are you familiar with Maharishi effect? Maybe raise your hand or say yes, or how many of you here joining this session are familiar with the Maharishi effect? Maris says no. That's absolutely okay. I'll explain in a second. I just want to. Yeah, Patty also no. Karen not familiar. Bindi. Okay. Most of you are not familiar. That's actually great, because I thrive when I can teach and when I can convey some knowledge. So, Maharishi effect is this interesting thing recognized by science that refers to the person of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So it comes from the Hindu tradition. And this yogi put out an experiment and invited around 4,000 people to collectively together practice transcendental meditation. And he proposed that if enough people in a certain point of time meditate, you use transcendental meditation, which essentially allows you, using mantra, to center yourself around the well-being and the present moment, produces the state of inner calm and peace. And he proposed that if there's enough people essentially being at peace in any given moment, that will influence the rest of the society and the rest of the collective in a positive way. And this experiment, and this is the most tremendous thing, he collected 4,000 TM meditators. And they observed, when they did in the big cities, they observed that the percentage of crime as a result of that meditation decreased. So it wasn't obviously people who were meditating were not committing a crime, they were being peaceful. That effect, that state of so many people affected the entire community in a positive way. And for those of you who will dig deeper, you'll see that many scientists criticized that experiment for maybe it's not robust enough. Maybe the sample is not enough. But the effect of it was undeniable. That our collective, our ability to collect with the inner source, inner peace, and our courage to do it will not only affect you, but will affect so many people around you. And on that note, I want to also bring to your attention another thing that is happening in the moment, and this is Walk for Peace. If you are not familiar with it, feel free to Google it. Monks and dog decided to walk from coast to coast in the US. Simply walk, being mindful of each step. Each step is a practice in order to support people's well-being and understanding that their state of mind, their conscious, mindful step Each step will, again, as the Maharishi effect teaches us, affect in a positive way the state of well-being of people around them. They do not assume what that effect is going to be or the particulars of it. They simply focus on their own source, connecting with them in mindful way with each step, and each step represents a peaceful act. So today, I do not invite you to change the world. I do not invite you to say, I can go out there and by saying things, change how things are. I ask you for something much more courageous, which is trusting your ability to connect with the inner peace, and in turn, that inner peace being a conduit for the bringing the inner peace to the world in a very tangible way that will allow others to maybe experience it more. So we collective will be creating a conduit through which that peace can come more to this planet, as opposed to the imbalance, fear, and anxiety that are so prevalent in this moment in history. So rather than opening the news channel, watching the terrifying news that's coming from the world around you, begin being aware of the state of the world, and in that very moment connect with the source and see what's going to happen through that. So Craig says metta meditation. That is very true. However, there is a caveat to metta meditation, and I discussed it with my patrons. It was actually very, I always say I need to practice metta meditation because my self-compassion, my personal metta is not that great. It's much easier for me to offer all of you as you sit good wishes and compassion and being not judgmental. When it comes to myself, that's a different story. But for those of you who explore the metta meditation, which is a fundamental meditation in Buddhism, one of the foundations, you'll see that in the three components of metta meditation, when you recite, may I be peaceful, may I be at peace, may I be whatever you require in that very moment. There is, in the second component of metta, it's may you be peaceful. So you offer it to somebody else, particularly someone that you like, someone that you are neutral towards, and even someone that you dislike. And the third component, you offer the very thing to the entire collective. And if you go to Insight Timer and type in metta meditation, normally all those three components are included in metta practice. Even my meditations, I recorded quite a few meditations on metta, on loving kindness, loving friendliness, as I like to call it. But if you dig deeper, most of the teachers would ask you, if you are serious about the metta practice, and if you choose to meditate on metta, on loving kindness, loving friendliness, the first year of this meditation, you should focus on just the first component, which is your personal peace and well-being. Because if you don't have that peace within you, if you do not connect, if you don't establish a strong connection with the inner peace within you, how can you possibly offer it to others? You may say words, but do you truly spread the peace? If you don't have it within you, if you didn't establish connection with the peace within you. And I can hear some of you may say, well, if it's about you, it's selfish. But I say this: connecting with the source, that is not a personal thing. It's not selfish. It's connecting with who you are on the fundamental level. That's where you came from. Connecting with that, it's never selfish. It is selfish in a sense that you're connecting with the only thing that truly matters on the transcendental level, which is oneness, where we all coming from. So it's selfish in the sense that you're connecting with the one thing that we all are. And by connecting that, we connect with everybody. So from the perspective of the mind, you see, it's very convoluted, and it is impossible to logically come to the conclusion. And I understand that, Manikin. If you do something for yourself, it's selfish. So again, do not approach it from the perspective of the mind. Perspective of the mind is only one aspect. And you cannot approach the state of the source from the perspective of the mind. You're only going to get more confused. All people who experienced altered states of oneness, state of not dual state, when they come back and they approach them from the perspective of the mind, they can only get confused. What is not confusing is the first-hand experience that they had whilst being connected with the source. Okay. Do you have any questions before we jump into meditation? Meg says, the monks and the peace dog came close to my city. Some friends drove to see and greet them. So beautiful and necessary. Mm-hmm. Joanne, how we go into the world has a ripple effect. So that ripple, thank you, Joanne. Sorry, thank you, Jean, not Joanne. I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name, Jean. Yes, the ripple effect is essentially, that's what Maharishi effect is. It's a ripple effect, but not effect that we can observe directly through measurement of our instruments. It's more on the level of, it's not the level of the mind, it's the more level of the subtle energy. Each act of peace ripples outwards and touches others in a way we cannot see. That's exactly what happens. So yeah. Yeah. How can we have compassion for others if we first don't have compassion to ourselves? That's exactly the question I'm posing for you as an encouragement to, quote unquote, selfishly focus on the source of inner peace, and we be so focusing it together. So this is another positive thing. Okay. Yes, Austin, you cannot pour from an empty vase. There are many sayings that encapsulate that very saying. Okay. I see no questions. So I will once again invite you to meditate with me, to connect with something that we all have, something that is impersonal. And that's why the collective aspect of it. We will be connecting. I will invite you to connect something that it's a common denominator to all of us. Even though the experience of it might be different on the individual level. That's the individuality and uniqueness of each of you and myself. So another metaphor that comes to mind, we will try to walk toward the peak of the mountain. And we may choose different paths. But once we're there, we recognize that we were going towards the same spot. And that's what we have in common. And we will be supported by my favorite in the recent time musician, Norwegian composer Peter Helland in his wonderful piece Within. Okay. So I will switch you to the meditation mode, which means that we will look within. For me, each meditation starts with recognizing that in this very moment, I'm making a choice. It's an intellectual one. My ability to direct my mind and my awareness from where I am to any given point in time, space, within my body, within the reality as is. And that freedom of choice is a fundamental principle. It's a fundamental principle that we embrace during each practice. But you will find along the way that choice is being taken away from you by mind wandering. But I'll be here by your side to remind you of that choice over and over again. Each meditation is a practice of 1,000 returns. And I'm here by your side to remind you that you have a choice to return or to stay in autopilot. So right now, I invite you to make choice to make yourself feel very comfortable and at ease. For me personally, that means to sit upright with my back straight, in which I feel connected with the center. I usually rest my feet on the floor, sense that I'm grounded. I put my hands into my lap and I allow my eyes to close. And by these choices, I move towards inner state. I move within. I invite you to start by recognizing whatever it is happening on the level of your body. Any discomfort or tension that you can manage in this very moment. And once you deal with this, recognize that beyond the physical senses, there is a source that is not physical, it is not informed by our physical body, but the opposite is true. That the source informs the peace. So rather than doing the usual and allowing the world around us, the turbulence that is there, inform our inner state, I invite you to look within and search for the source of the inner peace that is not dependent on the situation, on the state of the world. And I invite you to do it not by rejecting what is happening around you, but by bringing it in, putting it on the virtual table in front of you, where we face the state of the world collectively, and bring the peace from within in spite of what is happening. And by this courageous act of creating a conduit between the source and the external world, we influence our inner state and also the state of all of us meditating here and now and beyond. Your families, your friends, your community, your nation, and beyond. And to help this process, you may want to ground your awareness somewhere around the middle of your chest. There is a reason why heart is the center of our being. And we want to follow its guidance as a gateway towards inner peace, towards the source. We recognize that that's the gateway, and we use it wisely, one breath at a time. And if at any moment you find your mind wandering, distracted, I am here to remind you that you can return, that you can make this choice to bring yourself back. And I will be here by your side to hold the space, to meditate together, and to bring you back when the time is up. And now it is time to return. Inform your physical senses with the peace that you connected with in the source. And see for yourself what effect did that have on the state of your senses. Connect with your gaze and experience the peace through your eyes. Connect with the sound and hear my voice, the sound of music, and how you experience them right now. Briefly touch upon the senses of smell and taste, and see how peaceful you can experience them in this very moment. And finally, the sense of touch, how you connect with the world around you through the surface of your skin. When you are connected with peace, when you are at peace. See if you can take it to any situation that is challenging, the situation from the past, the upcoming challenges, or simply the state of the world as is right now. What are you bringing to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to your community, by being in a peaceful state? And to conclude, remember that this source is always at your disposal. And you can connect with it by remembering this very moment. Now, let us conclude this meditation by taking a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And when ready, open your eyes and welcome back. Thank you for meditating with me. How did it feel? What is your direct experience of this present moment, as informed by the inner peace that we connected with collectively? I want to acknowledge all of your contribution that all of you, each of you, played an important role in this collective conscious living meditation. And simply now we reaping the fruits of collective effort that will spread to our well-being, but with the hope that it also spreads to others. But this is out of our control, so we don't need to focus on that. Evie, a colleague of mine who was a Buddhist, told me it's not selfish, as the Western world may think, but it's the need to care for yourself so you can help others. Example, put your oxygen mask on first. That's exactly what it is. Thank you for sharing that. Karen, thank you for the session. Thank you for meditating with us. I'm glad it helped. Austin, collective peace. Evie feels more peaceful. Sandy, feeling calm and peaceful. Lonnie, thank you. Thank you to each of you for joining me in meditation. Thank you, Tomek, for facilitating. This is my pleasure. Thank you for meditating together. Karen feels peaceful, more peaceful. That's great. Nicole, Nikki, first time with us. Wonderful. I was not able to fully engage and still enjoy being here with you and everyone. I'll try again. It's a practice of 1,000 returns. Just because we cannot connect with something in the present moment doesn't deny the fact that it's there. And with a little bit of persistence and collective support, we will eventually get there. It's the choice. And I agree, it's not easy. I think if it was easy, everybody would do it. But the fact that we make the choice and have the courage of going there, and like the monks with the walk of peace, taking each mindful step, one mindful step at a time towards the peace, that's what matters. Austin, it is easy to breathe this community. That's a very good way of putting it. It is indeed. Frances, can you please tell me what the source means to you? The source is, again, from the perspective of the mind, I could use many different words. It is, for some people, it's called God, consciousness, the inner source, energy. But truly the only way to gain the understanding of it is to experience it, right? And hence all the practices, they, in any tradition, all the contemplative practices, they invite you to have the first experience of the source. And once you have it, you no longer need the intellectual explanation. So this is the way of saying that once you see it, you know it, but there are not amount of words that can really give you the experience of the source itself. So yeah. Gwendolyn, Patricia, Karen, so very kind of you to donate and to support my work. That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that the nervous system felt the difference. Nikki says inner knowing. Yeah, that's the inner knowing. Inner knowing, as I understand it, it's an inner experience, right? It's definitely a knowing. It's converting us. Rob Monroe would said, beliefs to knowns with a capital K. So I want to thank you all for this wonderful meditation and for your presence. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for creating that collective sense of belonging. And I dare say we made a difference. We brought a significant amount. I'm a scientist, so I have to quantify things. So I'm going to say how much. But I dare say that we certainly open a conduit for peace to come into our reality. How much of it is not important. I believe it's a significant amount to make a difference to our well-being and to the well-being of others. So I look forward to our next session when we collectively approach the world as is, and we will meditate together. We will discuss things, because this is how we contribute in a positive way to the state of the world, by bringing more peace. And that starts with the peace within you. Have a wonderful day, pleasant night, wherever you are. We'll leave you with Peter Helland and his beautiful music. I look forward to seeing you next time.